Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I know you're probably expecting this to be trackside after the most recent video. I did take a ton of footage from Cresson, but what I wanted to do though is actually kind of jump into an assessment and really a summary of what happened, because I think a lot of questions on people's minds are, what is getting private coaching like for track day riders? The benefit of this is that I've had a few days now to really reflect on what we did and what we worked on and what I got out of the whole experience. So I wanted to provide that summary for you guys. Basically, on Wednesday night, I got there super late. It was really dark, as you saw. Thursday morning came around and it was freezing cold. It was like 34 degrees in the morning, could not ride on track. Instead of riding for the first session, Ty took me out in a truck to get some familiarity with the track and its layout. Truth be told, sitting in a truck and listening to directions on how a track is laid out is helpful, but it's not nearly the same thing as getting on a bike and actually riding around, even if you're going slowly, right, to get familiarity with the track. But I did appreciate that we did that because there was kind of nothing else to do. Afterwards, we went into the classroom and reviewed some footage of track riding around the track. Again, without the context of having ridden the track, it's still kind of vague. When we finished some of the video review, we then went into what Ty calls the anatomy of a corner, and I recorded the entire session of that. So just comment below if you would like me to just upload that so you can just watch that. I think I will upload it, because if you are a novice or intermediate track rider, I think it's super valuable information, because he really goes in depth in terms of how do you break down a corner to really understand the different sections of a corner, right? The way that he explains the anatomy of the corner is applicable to pretty much every corner that you're going to see on track. In the video, you'll see him talk about maximum braking or threshold braking that leads to trail braking, which leads to your maintenance throttle and getting back on the gas at the apex or before the apex, etc. So all those different things that you should know as a track rider, and even as a street rider, you should have an appreciation of how a corner is shaped and how you navigate that corner. So I'll upload that, check that out. It's I'll just leave it unfiltered so you can just watch the whole thing and just pretend you're in class with me learning from Ty. After that, we actually were finally able to go out and do a couple of sessions. We only got 3 sessions in the first day, where I was really just focused on learning the track, right? But what Ty did do, even in the first day, even after just 1 session of watching me ride, was he was able to pinpoint a bad habit, which is when I go through really aggressive braking on my right side, I had a habit of stiffening up my arm and not really letting my body move naturally into the corner. When you go into really heavy braking zone, as you push up into the brake, what I do is I lock my arm, and that elevates my center of gravity, right? So I keep my center of gravity high, and in order to make the corner, I have to lean even more, which introduces more lean angle while reducing the contact patch at a lower speed, and all sorts of bad things result from that, right? So you go through the corner essentially slower, but with greater risk. And so he pointed that out after seeing me ride for like 15 minutes. And so I really appreciated the fact that he was able to see that and assess that bad habit and help me just identify that really quickly. And immediately afterwards, I tried to work on it and I felt better. Now, in terms of the first day progression, that was the kind of focus, was really familiarity with the track, and honestly for him, just getting to know me as a rider, right? To really figure out what I'm capable of, what we should focus on, and then pinpointing that one bad habit that I had. Of many, there are many bad habits. The other thing that Ty really impressed on me on the first day was understanding how your bike's suspension works. Not, dialing and adjusting the knobs and tuning your suspension, but in that if you are coasting through a turn, your bike will not want to turn, right? You don't want to ride with no inputs. So essentially you want to use your inputs to control the load on the front of the bike or the rear of the bike, so that you can either turn more easily or accelerate more easily. Use those inputs to help you navigate the track and use your bike more safely and more quickly. Just reducing those moments where you're really not doing anything, where you're just coasting. That means that the bike really won't behave in the way that you want it to. So he emphasizes control quite a bit, which I appreciate. The second day rolled around and I had been feeling pretty good because we only got to do 3 sessions, which was a bummer the day before, but we still did a lot of classroom time. We still did some video analysis, and I still felt like I learned the track. So the second day was, I think, where things started to really come together for me, and I'm really glad that I stayed for a second day. We were able to do pretty much every session of the day, and that was really fun. And I actually had a second student join me, so we split, instead of one-on-one, it was one-on-two, and I'll talk a bit about that as well. But essentially the second day we were able to turn a lot more laps, work a lot more at a quicker pace. At the end of the second day, in terms of my progression, I was able to turn a 125.5, which puts me squarely in the middle of the novice pack or towards the tail end of the expert pack, which I felt like was a pretty good result for never having ridden there before, right? So really it was like the 7th or 8th session where I was turning those times. So I was quite satisfied with that, and I'm just so excited to be able to come back later and pick up on it and see what else I can do, right? Because the goal really is to be able to compete for those top spots in the class. Now that I've had a few days to really digest what we did, what we worked on the track, I think I'm better equipped to give you more of an assessment of, was it worth it, right? Because I think that's the question that everyone's gonna ask, is like, well, what did it cost? What did you do? Was it worth it? So we covered the what did you do. Now in terms of the what did it cost, I think the prices will be variable, but essentially it's around $400 to $500 a day for the one-on-one time with him, and that's on track and off track. If you're off track, you're basically doing classroom sessions. If you're on track, he's riding with you and recording you, and then when you come back, you do video analysis of what you did. If you split it with another student or two students, you can split the costs, and there's a different structure for it essentially. But obviously, it's expensive. There's no getting around that part. Now, the question is, was it worth it? For me, absolutely. But to better answer that question for you, I think you have to be really honest with what you're trying to get out of private coaching, okay? This is how I would break it down. So essentially, if you are a rider that is not really looking actively for instruction, you're not really looking to get to certain levels or to race or whatever it is, right? Then I don't think this is worth it, because the whole point of this structure is to get very personalized instruction, feedback, even criticisms of bad habits, so that you can get rid of those habits and develop the right habits so that you can ride better and safer and faster, right? What I would say is spend that money on just more track days or more seat time or whatever it is that will make you happy, right? Now, if you are a track day rider that is novice looking to get to intermediate, or intermediate looking to get to advanced, or advanced looking to start club racing, or you're a club racer looking to bump up to expert or compete for a championship, if you are looking for instruction, a guide to help you get to the next level, then absolutely this is the right thing for you. Now let me explain to you why. First off, working with a professional coach who has the depth of experience, the depth of knowledge that someone like Ty has is invaluable, because what you're buying is you're buying their decades of track time and track experience, racing experience. You're also buying their ability to teach. So, because you can't make the assumption that just because someone is a fast rider means they necessarily know how to teach, right? And I'm sure if you've been riding track, this is something that really resonates with you, right? Like you can work with someone to get a toe, but if they can't explain how to do what they're doing, then it doesn't really quite help you, right? In a way that is super constructive. And so that's really why I think you find the value in a private coach, right? The second part of this is that these coaches that are like Ty, that have had all those years of seat time, of riding and racing and coaching, they just know how to get around a track much better than other riders do. Ty literally set the track record for Cresson and also for a number of other tracks all over the region. And so he really knows the track that few other people do. The first day we just focused on his line, his approach to the turns, and he explained really clearly why you would want to hug a certain corner because it's leading up to a blind hill that has an off camber, and why you wouldn't want to be on the outside of the track. And lo and behold, the second day we had a group of racers that came that were definitely members, or they'd ridden there before, and I wasn't able to quite beat them, but I was able to follow them, and it was so glaringly different, their approach, which is this really wide entrance to these corners, and you can see how much time and how much speed they're losing, but that's just because they didn't have Ty to work with them, right? They didn't know the better line. And what I can think of is, wow, like that's me at other places as well, where I'm probably riding this super inefficient line for days or months or years or whatever it is, and you're just practicing the wrong line. So you're just practicing the wrong thing, Whereas if you just had instruction, you would have been much more efficient in learning that track, right? So that's something to keep in mind. Now, the other thing is that the benefit of having a super experienced coach is that when they look at your riding, it's very holistic. So they look at the entire package of you as a rider, right? When Ty assesses the way that I ride, he doesn't look at just one element of the riding. He doesn't look at just body position in isolation, right? He doesn't look at just throttle or lines or brake markers in isolation. It's all because it's all components that influence and impact each other to have this output, which is your riding ability, right? Your speed and your pace on the track, right? And so it wasn't like, oh, you know, Viet, you should improve your body position just because it'll look cooler, right, for photos. It was because if you improve your body position to this corner, it's going to load the suspension differently, which will allow you to get on the gas differently, which will allow you to be more efficient on the track, right? And so I really appreciate how you can connect those different elements of riding into that holistic package as a complete rider, right? And then what Ty does, and I was able to watch him do this because Lauren, hello to Lauren. Lauren was my other student that worked with Ty on Friday. She just started track riding not long ago, so the lessons that Ty was working on with her was slightly different than what he was working on with me, right? The paces are different, but he was able to tailor that, and I was able to watch him work with her on those things, and I did see an improvement for her throughout the day, right? Really appreciate a good instructor that can do that, right? That can work at all levels, right? And because he's so damn fast and he's so damn good, you can literally ride at any pace that you can do, right? And then dial it up a bit more to tow you a bit more, or dial it back down if he sees that you're being a little bit too reckless, right? He can just calibrate really, really easily, right? And knowing the paces that he does, pretty sure he can do that pretty much with anyone at any level, minus maybe the very top fastest guys in Moto America right now that are the peak of their game. But he also coaches Moto America racers, so what do I know? The final thing that I would say is that working with a private coach like Ty is like having a sherpa that guides you up a mountain that you've never been to before. You know, I've never been at Cresson before, and I'm pretty satisfied with my results. I know I can do better, and that's why we'll come back and do better, etc. But one of the things that people have to get over is when you go to a new track, you don't know where you're going, right? It's like you're on a new mountain and you have to climb the mountain, you have to get to the summit, but you have no idea where you're going. And so having a private coach with the experience and the skill that Ty has, it means that you can navigate that mountain much more safely, right? And so in a way, you have a private Sherpa which serves as an insurance policy, right? And so I can guarantee you that whatever fee you pay him for the day is cheaper than crashing a motorcycle, right? And so when you look at it from that regard, from that framework, it's like, oh, well then yeah, that's a no-brainer, right? Like you are learning this racetrack at a much higher pace than you normally would, even if you did a track day, even if you worked with an instructor at a track day. Just the level of care and the level of attention to detail that you get one-on-one with a professional coach is going to be more than a track day instructor who has to balance your needs with 30, 40 other students' needs. So this is going to be much more intimate and much more tailored to you. In short, is paying for a private racing coach or track day coach worth it? In my opinion, if you are a rider looking for that feedback, looking for that instruction, absolutely. If you're not, then I would say spend more time on just track days, just get more seat time and enjoy yourself that way. The big takeaway for me will be, can I apply those lessons into my own riding at my own local track without Ty being there, right? That's the whole point, is can you learn skills that you can work on your own so that you can keep developing as a rider, right? And so I'm really excited. I'm gonna be back at my local track in a few days. And I think the ultimate test will be just lap times and also how I fare in the championship for this year, right? So my goal is to, if possible, win the heavyweight twins class and the Formula One twins class for novices, and also do fairly well against experts in the season. I think if I were able to do that throughout the course of the season, I would have had a very successful first season with the Sierra Marais. So that wraps up my summary of my 2 days with Ty Howard and working with a professional coach. And I'll leave his contact information below in the description below. So if you are curious about one-on-one lessons or just lessons with him in general, feel free to reach out to him. I think that a lot of people that are looking to progress to the next level as track day riders or racers, you would benefit enormously from spending time with him or a coach like him. So there's a network now of USMCA coaches out there. There's over 100 in the United States, I believe, and so you can find one in your region or in your area to work with. And I think that for people that are serious and that are really invested in the sport, it's a worthwhile investment, guys, because again, if you think about it, you can go about and do 10 track days that will cost you, I don't know, $2,000 to $3,000 easily, right? Or you can spend a few days with a racing coach and you'll get so much more out of that time with them, and also probably learn how to ride faster but safer, which reduces your risk and the costs of crashing, because crashing is expensive and crashing sucks. That's it for today, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you guys got something out of that, and if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below as always. And if you're new here, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you guys subscribe and join the channel. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys on the next video.